Gyobutsu Yuigi, the dignified behavior of acting Buddha, by Eihei Dogen, from Shobogenzo, the treasury of the true Dharma Eye. The Buddhas always practice to the full dignified behavior. This is acting Buddha. Acting Buddha is neither resultant Buddha nor transformed Buddha, and is neither Buddha as the body of subjective nature, nor Buddha as the body of objective nature. It is beyond initiated enlightenment and original enlightenment, and it is beyond inherent enlightenment and non-existent enlightenment. Buddhas like these can never stand shoulder to shoulder with acting Buddha. Remember, Buddhas, being in the Buddha's state of truth, do not expect enlightenment. Mastery of action in the Buddha's ascendant state of truth belongs to acting Buddha alone. It is never realized by Buddha as subjective nature and the like, even in a dream. Because this acting Buddha realizes dignity at each moment, the dignity is realized before the body. Before verbal expression, the leaking out of the gist of the teaching covers time, covers all directions, covers Buddhas, and covers action. If we are not acting Buddha, being not yet released from the fetter of Buddha and the fetter of Dharma, we are grouped among Buddha demons and Dharma demons. The meaning of the fetter of Buddha is as follows. When we view and understand Bodhi as Bodhi, we have directly been fettered by that view itself, and by that understanding itself. Passing instantaneously through the moment of consciousness, never expecting that it might be the period of liberation, we misunderstand Bodhi in vain. To view and understand Bodhi as just Bodhi may be the very view which accords with Bodhi. Who could call this the false view? I remember it as just binding myself without rope. It is fetters at every moment, continuing endlessly. It is not a tree falling and wisteria withering. It is no more than fruitless struggling in caves on the Buddhist periphery. It neither recognizes the sickness of the Dharma body, nor recognizes the privation of the reward body. Even theorists, teachers of sutras, teachers of commentaries, and the like, who have heard the Buddha's truth from afar, say, then to establish towards the Dharma nature a view on the Dharma nature is just ignorance. The theorists failed to say that when, in the Dharma nature, a view of the Dharma nature arises, the Dharma nature is a fetter. Further, he added the fetter of ignorance. It is a shame that he did not know that the Dharma nature contains a fetter. But if he recognized that, he added the fetter of ignorance that may have become a seed for the establishment of the Bodhi mind. The present acting Buddha has never been fettered by such fetters. For this reason, the Buddha says, "The lifetime which I have realized by my original practice of the Bodhisattva way is not exhausted even now, but will still be twice the previous number of kalpas." Remember, it is not that his lifetime as a bodhisattva is ranged continuously to the present, nor that his lifetime as Buddha has permeated the past. The previous number described now is the totality that he has realized. The even now, which he has just expressed, is his total lifetime. My original practice, even if one track of iron for 10,000 miles, is also to abandon all things for 100 years, letting them be vertical or horizontal. This being so, practice and experience is beyond non-existence. Practice and experience is beyond existence, and practice and experience is beyond being tainted. Though there are 100,000 myriad places where there are no Buddhas and no human beings, those places do not taint acting Buddha, and so acting Buddha is not tainted by practice and experience. This does not mean that practice and experience are always untainted. At the same time, this untaintedness is not non-existent. Soke says, "Just this untaintedness is that which the Buddhas guard and desire. You are also like this. I am also like this. And all the patriarchs of India were also like this." Thus, because the Buddhas as you are also like this, they are the Buddhas. And because the Buddhas as I are also like this, they are the Buddhas. In this untainted state, which is truly beyond I and beyond you, real I, this concrete I, that which the Buddhas guard and desire, is the dignified behavior of acting Buddha. Real you, this concrete you, that which the Buddhas guard and desire, is the dignified behavior of acting Buddha. Because he is I also, the Master is excellent. Because he is you also, the disciple is strong. The Master's excellence and the disciple's strength are the perfection in knowledge and action of acting Buddha. Remember, that which the Buddhas guard and desire is mine also and yours also. Although the expression of the truth by the eternal Buddha of Soke is beyond I, how could it not be about you? that which acting Buddha guards and desires, and that which acting Buddha masters is like this. Therefore, we have seen that practice and experience is beyond concepts such as essence and form, or substance and detail. Acting Buddhas departing and arriving instantaneously cause Buddha to act, at which time Buddha is just causing action. Here, there is giving up the body for the Dharma, and there is giving up the Dharma for the body, begrudging body and life, and solely begrudging body and life. It is not only that we give up Dharma for the Dharma. There is dignified behavior in which we give up Dharma for the sake of the mind. We should not forget that giving up is unfathomable. We should not utilize consideration in the state of Buddha to fathom or to suppose the great truth. Consideration by Buddha is only one corner. For example, like opening flowers. We should not utilize consideration by the mind to grope for or to analogize dignified behavior. Consideration by the mind is only one face. For example, like the world. Consideration by a stalk of grass evidently is consideration by the mind of the Buddhist patriarchs. It is a fragment in which acting Buddha has already recognized its own footprint. Even when we see to the end, the consideration by the undivided mind already includes boundless Buddha consideration. If we aim to consider the demeanor and stillness, the movement and quietness of acting Buddha, they have features which are originally beyond consideration. Because they are action which is beyond consideration, they are indefinable, unusable, and unfathomable. Now, in regard to the dignified behavior of acting Buddha, there are individual researches. The dignified behavior, which is I also, and you also, when it has come like this as Buddha here and now, and as the Self here and now, is connected with the ability of an I alone. But at the same time, it is just the liberation which is the state like that of Buddhas in the 10 directions. And it is never simply an identification. For this reason, an eternal Buddha says, after grasping in physical experience matters in distant places, we come back to this concrete place and act. When we are already maintaining and relying upon the state like this, all dharmas, all bodies, all acts, and all Buddhas are familiar and direct. These Buddhas, whose bodies practice the Dharma, each solely have the state of restriction in direct experience. because they have restriction in direct experience. They solely have liberation in direct experience. Do not be disturbed that when the clear hundreds of things are restricted by eyes, not a single Dharma is seen, and not a single object is seen. At this Dharma reality has already arrived. At that Dharma reality has already arrived. When we act in fetching and taking away, and in leaving and entering through a common gate, because the whole world has never been hidden, the world-honored one's secret talk, secret experience, secret action, secret transmission, and so on, are present. If I leave through the gate, just grass. If I enter through the gate, just grass. For 10,000 miles, not an inch of grass. The word enter and the word leave are useless at this place, and useless at that place. The present grasping does not depend upon action, which is letting go. Rather, it is a dream, an illusion, a flower in space. Who can put this mistake in its place, as a dream, an illusion, a flower in space? A forward step is a mistake. A backward step is a mistake. One step is a mistake. And two steps are a mistake. Therefore, action is mistakes at every moment. Because the separation is as great as that between heaven and earth, to arrive at the truth is without difficulty. We should utterly realize dignified behavior and behavioral dignity as the body in the great truth being relaxed. Remember, when born into life, we are born at one with the truth, and when entering death, we enter at one with the truth. In the head-to-tail rightness of that state, as a jewel turning or a pearl spinning, dignified behavior is manifest before us. That which imparts and possesses single fragments of the dignified behavior of Buddha is the whole of the cosmos and the earth, and the whole of living and dying, and going and coming. It is lands of dust, and it is the lotus flower. This land of dust and this lotus flower, each is one corner. In the thoughts of many students, it is supposed that the whole cosmos might mean this southern continent of Jambudvipa, or that it might mean this unity of 4 continents. Again, some appear simply to conceive of the single nation of China, or think of the single nation of Japan. Some appear to think that the whole earth also means only a 3,000 great thousandfold world. Some appear merely to imagine one province or one district. If you want to learn through experience, the words the whole earth and the whole cosmos. Mull them over 3 times and 5 times. Do not conclude that they are just discussing width. This attaining of truth is the state of transcending the Buddhas and transcending the patriarchs, which is the extremely large equaling the small, and the extremely small equaling the large. That the large does not exist, and the small does not exist, seems doubtful, but it is the acting Buddha of dignified behavior, in both cases expressed by the Buddhas and the patriarchs, dignified behavior as the whole cosmos, and dignified behavior as the whole earth. We should learn in practice, as the whole world, the state of never having been hidden. What has never been hidden is not only the whole world, but also that which perfectly hits the target of acting Buddha, dignified behavior. In expounding the Buddha's truth, people usually say that beings born from the womb and born from metamorphosis are the action of the Buddha's truth, but they never mention beings born from moisture and born from eggs. Still less have they ever realized, even in a dream, that even beyond this birth from the womb, eggs, moisture, and metamorphosis, there is birth. How much less could they see, hear, or sense that beyond birth from the womb, eggs, moisture, and metamorphosis, there is birth from the womb, eggs, moisture, and metamorphosis. In the present great truth of the Buddhas and patriarchs, the fact that beyond birth from the womb, eggs, moisture, and metamorphosis, there is birth from the womb, eggs, moisture, and metamorphosis, has been authentically transmitted in the state of never having been hidden, and has been authentically transmitted in the state of immediacy. As what kind of group should we see those who will not hear, will not learn, will not recognize, and will not clarify this expression of the truth? We have heard already about the 4 kinds of birth. For death, how many kinds are there? Might there be, for the 4 kinds of birth, 4 kinds of death? Or might there be 3 kinds of death, or 2 kinds of death? Again, might there be 5 deaths, 6 deaths, thousands of deaths, or myriad deaths? Even merely to doubt this principle is a kind of learning in practice. Let us consider for a while, among the miscellaneous beings born from these 4 kinds of birth, could there be any which have birth but no death? And are there any which receive a single line transmission of only death, without receiving a single line transmission of birth? We must unfailingly study in practice the existence or non-existence of kinds which solely are born, or which solely die. There are those who merely hear the phrase non-birth without clarifying it, seeming to set aside effort with body and mind. It is the utmost stupidity. They must be called a kind of animal which cannot arrive at even discussion of devotional and dharma practice, or of instantaneous and gradual realization. The reason is that even if they hear the words being without birth, they need to ask, what is the intention of this expression of the truth? They utterly fail to consider whether it might mean Buddha as being without, the truth as being without, the mind as being without, or cessation as being without, or whether it might mean non-birth as being without, or whether it might mean the world of Dharma as being without, or the Dharma nature as being without, or whether it might mean death as being without. This is because they are as idly absent-minded as water weeds. Remember, living and dying is the action of the Buddha's truth, and living and dying is a tool in the Buddha's house. In using it, we should use it carefully. In clarifying it, we are able to be clear. Therefore, Buddhas are utterly clear in this penetration and non-penetration, and are utterly able in this careful use. If you are unclear in regard to this living and dying, who can say that you are yourself? Who can call you a character who has comprehended life and mastered death? You cannot hear that you are immersed in living and dying. You cannot know that you exist in living and dying. You cannot believe and accept that living and dying is living and dying. And you can neither be beyond understanding nor beyond knowing. Some express the notion that Buddhas appear in the world only in the human state, never manifesting themselves in other directions or in other states. If it is, as they say, must every place where Buddhas are present be a human state? That is a human Buddha's expression of the truth, that I alone am the honored one. There may also be God Buddhas, and there may be Buddha Buddhas. Those who say that Buddhas manifest themselves only in the human domain do not enter deep beyond the threshold of the Buddhist patriarchs. An ancestral patriarch says, Shakyamuni Buddha, having received the transmission of the right Dharma from Kasyapa Buddha, went to Tushita heaven to teach the gods of Tushita, and he is still there now. Truly, we should remember, although at the time the Shakyamuni of the human world spread the teaching which was the manifestation of his extinction, the Shakyamuni of the heavens above is still there now, teaching the gods. Students should know that the existence of the speech, the action, and the preaching of the Shakyamuni of the human world, though of thousandfold changes and myriad transformations, are only one corner in the human domain of his radiance of brightness and his manifestation of good omens. We should not stupidly fail to recognize that the teaching of the Shakyamuni of the heavens above might also be of thousandfold kinds and myriad aspects. The fundamental point, which transcends severance of the great truth authentically transmitted from Buddha to Buddha, and which has gotten free of being without beginning and without end, has been authentically transmitted only in Buddhism. It is a virtue that other sorts neither know nor hear. At places where acting Buddha establishes the teaching, there exist living beings beyond the four kinds of birth, and there may exist places beyond the heavens above, the human domain, the world of Dharma, and the like. When you want to glimpse the dignified behavior of acting Buddha, do not use eyes of the heavens above or the human world, and do not employ the sentimental thinking of the heavens above or the human world. Do not aim to fathom dignified behavior by such means. Even bodhisattvas in the 10 sacred and 3 clever stages neither know it nor clarify it. How much less could the calculating intellect of the human world and the heavens above reach it? As human consideration is short and small, so too is knowledge-based wisdom short and small. As a lifetime is short and pressed, so too is the intellect short and pressed. How could it fathom the dignified behavior of acting Buddha? Thus, with regard to the lineage that simply takes the human world to be the Buddha Dharma, and the lineage that narrowly takes human methods to be the Buddha Dharma, never permit that either the former or the latter are the Buddha's disciples. They are only ordinary beings as the results of karma. They have never experienced the hearing of Dharma through body and mind. And they have never possessed a body and mind that has practiced the truth. They do not live in conformity with Dharma. They do not die in conformity with Dharma. They do not see in conformity with Dharma. They do not hear in conformity with Dharma. They do not walk, stand, sit, and lie in conformity with Dharma. Groups like this have never experienced the moistening benefit of Dharma. The assertion that acting Buddha is neither in love with original enlightenment, nor in love with initiated enlightenment, and is beyond not having enlightenment, and beyond having enlightenment, describes just this principle. Such concepts as mindfulness and being without mindfulness, or having enlightenment and being without enlightenment, or initiated enlightenment and original enlightenment, which are excitedly considered by the common men of today, are solely the excited consideration of the common man. They are not what has been transmitted and received from Buddha to Buddha. The mindfulness of the common man and the mindfulness of the Buddhas are far apart. Never liken them. The common man's excited consideration of original enlightenment, and the Buddha's real experience of original enlightenment, are as far apart as heaven and earth. They are beyond comparison. Not even the vigorous consideration of bodhisattvas in the 10 sacred and 3 clever stages can arrive at the Buddha's state of truth. How could the common men who vainly count grains of sand fathom it? Yet there are many who, while merely giving excited consideration to the essentialist and trivialist false views of common men and non-Buddhists, conceive these views to be the state of the Buddhas. The Buddhas have said, the roots of wrongdoing of these fellows are deep and heavy, and they are beings to be pitied. Their deep and heavy roots of wrongdoing are limitless. At the same time, the deep and heavy burden is borne by these fellows themselves. For a while they should let go of this deep and heavy burden, and put on eyes and look. They may take hold of their burden again, and restrict themselves with it, but that is not the beginning of anything. The present unrestricted state of the dignified behavior of acting Buddha is restricted by the state of Buddha, in which state, because the vigorous path of dragging through mud and staying in water has been mastered, there is no restriction. In the heavens above, the state of acting Buddha teaches gods in the human world. It teaches human beings. It has the virtue of flowers opening, and it has the virtue of the occurrence of the world, without any gap between them at all. For this reason, it is far transcendent over self and others, and it has independent excellence in going and coming. Just here and now, it goes to Tushita heaven. Just here and now, it comes from Tushita heaven. Just here and now, it is just Tushita heaven, here and now. Just here and now, it goes to peace and happiness. Just here and now, it comes from peace and happiness. Just here and now, it is just peace and happiness, here and now. Just here and now, it is far transcendent over Tushita. Just here and now, it is far transcendent over peace and happiness. Just here and now, it smashes peace and happiness and Tushita into hundreds of bits and pieces. Just here and now, it holds on to and lets go of peace and happiness and Tushita. It swallows them whole in one gulp. Remember, peace and happiness and Tushita are akin to the Pure Land and to paradise, in that each turns in the circuit of mundane existence. When peace and happiness and Tushita are action, the Pure Land and paradise similarly are action. When the former are great realization, the latter similarly are great realization. When the former are great delusion, the latter similarly are great delusion. This state is for the present, toes wiggling inside the sandals of acting Buddha. Sometimes it is the sound of a fart and the whiff of a shit. Those who have nostrils are able to smell it. With organs of hearing, organs of body, and organs of action, they hear it. There are also times when it gets my skin, flesh, bones, and marrow. Being attained through action, it never got from others. When the great truth of understanding life and mastering death has already been mastered openly, there is an old expression for it, namely that great saints leave life and death at the mercy of mind, leave life and death at the mercy of the body, leave life and death at the mercy of the truth, and leave life and death at the mercy of life and death. Although the revelation of this principle is beyond the past and present, the dignified behavior of acting Buddha is instantaneously practiced to the full. The truth being a cycle, the state of acting Buddha can momentarily intuit and affirm the import of life and death, and body and mind. Practicing to the full and clarifying to the full are not enforced actions. They greatly resemble a head being deluded and making out shadows, and they are totally akin to the turning of light and reflection. This brightness, which is brightness over brightness, permeates the meridians of acting Buddha, and is utterly entrusted to the acting. To research this truth of moment by moment utter entrustment, we must research the mind. In the moment still state of such research, we discern and understand that 10,000 efforts are each the mind being evident, and the triple world is just that which is greatly removed from the mind. This discernment and understanding, while also of the myriad real dharmas, activate the homeland of the self. They make immediate and concrete the vigorous state of the human being in question. Then, in shaking the sieve 2 times and 3 times, grasping criteria within phrases, and seeking expedients outside words, there is taking hold in excess of taking hold, and there is letting go in excess of letting go. Consideration therein is as follows: what is life and what is death? What are body and mind? What are giving and taking away? What are leaving be and going against? Is this consideration a leaving and entering through a common gate, without any meeting taking place? Is it a stone having been placed already, in which state, even if the body is concealed, the horns are showing through? Is it immense consideration followed by understanding? Is it maturation of thought followed by knowing? Is it the one bright pearl? Is it the whole treasury of the teachings? Is it a staff? Is it a face and eyes? Does it follow after 30 years? Is it 10,000 years in one moment of consciousness? Investigating in concrete detail, we should make investigation itself concrete and detailed. When investigation is done in concrete detail, a whole eye hears sounds, and a whole ear sees forms. Further, when a Shramana's one eye is open and clear, this state is not only the real dharmas before the eyes, and this state is not only the facts before the eyes. There is a face of gentle countenance breaking into a smile, and there is the winking of an eye. They are the fleetingness of the dignified behavior of acting Buddha. Acting Buddha is not to be pulled by objects. It is to be beyond the pull of objects. It is beyond being without birth and without becoming in the process of dependent origination. It is beyond the original nature and the Dharma nature. It is beyond abiding in one's place in the Dharma. It is beyond the state of original existence. And it is not only the concrete affirmation of reality as it is nothing other than the acting Buddha of dignified behavior. This being so, the real state of working for Dharma and working for body can be left at the mercy of the mind, and the dignified behavior which gets rid of life and gets rid of death is utterly entrusted for the present to Buddha. Therefore, we have the expressions The myriad dharmas are only the mind, and the triple world is only the mind. When we express the truth in a further ascendant state, there is an expression of the truth by only the mind itself, namely fences, walls, tiles, and pebbles. It is because mind is not only the mind that fences, wall, tiles, and pebbles are not fences, wall, tiles, and pebbles. Such are the truths of entrustment to the mind, and entrustment to the Dharma, and of working for the Dharma, and working for the body, which are the dignified behavior of acting Buddha. It is beyond the orbit of initiated enlightenment, original enlightenment, and so on. How much less could it be in the orbit of non-Buddhists, the two vehicles, and bodhisattvas in the 3 clever and 10 sacred stages? This dignified behavior is simply the not understanding of every individual, and is not understanding in every instance. Even the state of vigorous activity is also a situation, as it is moment by moment. Is it the single track of iron, or is it 2 parts moving? The single track of iron is beyond long and short, and the 2 parts moving are beyond self and others. When we realize the effort, which is the energy of this real state of making things progress and throwing ourselves into the moment, then dignity covers the myriad dharmas, and the I is as high as the whole of civilization. There is brightness that does not interfere with reining in and letting go. It is the monk's hall, the Buddha hall, the kitchen, and the 3 gates. There is brightness that is utterly beyond letting go and reining in. It is the monk's hall, the Buddha hall, the kitchen, and the 3 gates. Further, there are eyes that permeate the 10 directions, and there are eyes that totally take in the earth. There is the moment before the mind, and there is the moment after the mind. Because such brightness and virtue in eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind is burning, there are the Buddhas of the 3 times who have maintained and relied upon the state of being not known, and there are cats and white oxen which have thrown themselves into the moment of being known to exist. When this ring in the nose is present, and this eye is present, the Dharma preaches acting Buddha, and the Dharma sanctions acting Buddha. Great Master Shinkaku of Seppozan Mountain preaches to the assembly. The Buddhas of the 3 times are inside the flame of the fire, turning the great wheel of Dharma. Great Master Shuitsu of Gensa-in Temple says, "The flame is preaching the Dharma for the Buddhas of the 3 times, and the Buddhas of the 3 times are standing on the ground to listen." Zen Master Engo says, "Seppo deserves to be called the White Baron, but also present is the Black Baroness. Reciprocally, they throw themselves into the moment. Gods appear and demons vanish. Blazing flame covers the cosmos. Buddha preaches Dharma. The cosmos is in blazing flame. Dharma preaches Buddha. Ahead of the wind, nests of arrowroot and wisteria have been cut away. With one word, Vimalakirti has been tested and defeated." The present Buddhas of the 3 times means all Buddhas. Acting Buddha is just the Buddhas of the 3 times themselves. Among the Buddhas of the 10 directions, there is none who is not of the 3 times. When the Buddha's truth preaches the 3 times, it preaches them wholly like this. Now, when we research acting Buddha, it is just the Buddhas of the 3 times themselves. Whether its existence is known, or whether its existence is not known, it is always acting Buddha as the Buddhas of the 3 times. Even so, the 3 olden Buddhas, while expressing the truth of the Buddhas of the 3 times, in like fashion, have the individual expressions described above. For instance, Seppo says, "The Buddhas of the 3 times are inside the flame, turning the great wheel of Dharma." And we should learn this truth. Every place of practicing truth in which the Buddhas of the 3 times turn the wheel of Dharma might be the inside of flame, and every inside of flame might be a Buddha's place of practicing truth. Teachers of sutras and teachers of commentaries cannot hear this, and non-Buddhists and the 2 vehicles cannot know it. Remember, the flame of Buddhas can never be the flame of other sorts. Indeed, we should reflect upon whether or not other sorts have flame at all. We should learn the teaching conventions employed by the Buddhas of the 3 times while they are inside flame. When they are located inside flame, are flame and the Buddhas cemented together? Are they drifting apart? Are object and subject oneness? Do object and subject exist? Are object and subject the same situation? Are object and subject equally far removed? Turning the great wheel of Dharma, may include turning the self and turning the moment. It is making things progress and throwing oneself into the moment. May include turning the Dharma and the Dharma turning. The turning the wheel of Dharma, which Seppo has already expressed, even if the whole earth is totally in flame, may include turning the wheel of Dharma, which is the wheel of fire, may include turning the wheel of Dharma, which is the Buddha's, may include turning the wheel of Dharma, which is the wheel of Dharma, and may include turning the wheel of Dharma, which is the 3 times. In sum, flame is the great place of practice in which the Buddhas turn the great wheel of Dharma. To fathom this state by spatial thinking, temporal thinking, human thinking, the thinking of the common and the sacred, and so on, does not hit the target. Because this state is not fathomed by such thinking, it is just the Buddhas of the 3 times being inside flame and turning the great wheel of Dharma. The Buddhas of the 3 times, which Seppo has already expressed, have gone beyond thinking. Because the Buddhas of the 3 times are places of practice for the turning of the Dharma wheel, flame exists. Because flame exists, the Buddha's places of practice exist. Gensa says, the flame is preaching Dharma for the Buddhas of the 3 times, and the Buddhas of the 3 times are standing on the ground to listen to the Dharma. Hearing these words, some might say that Gensa's words are a fitter expression of the truth than Seppo's words. It is not necessarily so. Remember, the words of Seppo and the words of Gensa are separate. That is to say, Seppo is speaking of the concrete place where the Buddhas of the 3 times are turning the great wheel of Dharma, and Gensa is speaking of the Buddhas of the 3 times listening to the Dharma. Whereas Seppo's words express the very turning of the Dharma itself, the existence at a concrete place of turning of the Dharma does not necessarily call into discussion listening to the Dharma or not listening to the Dharma. Thus, we cannot hear Seppo say that in turning of the Dharma there must always be listening to the Dharma. Further, there may be import in Seppo not saying that the Buddhas of the 3 times are preaching Dharma for the flame, not saying that the Buddhas of the 3 times are turning the great wheel of Dharma for the Buddhas of the 3 times, and not saying that the flame is turning the great wheel of Dharma for the flame. Is there any difference between saying turning the Dharma wheel and saying turning the great wheel of Dharma? Turning the wheel of Dharma is beyond preaching Dharma. Must preaching Dharma necessarily be done for others? Thus, Seppo's words are not words that fail to express fully the words that he meant to express. We must learn in practice and always in complete detail. Seppo's words existing inside the flame, turning the great wheel of Dharma. Do not confuse them with Gensa's words. To penetrate Seppo's words is to dignify and to behave with the dignified behavior of Buddha. The flame's accommodation of the Buddhas of the three times is beyond only the permeation of one limitless Dharma world, or two limitless Dharma worlds, and it is beyond only the penetration of one atom or two atoms. For a measure of the turning of the great wheel of Dharma, do not look to measures of the large, small, wide, and narrow. The turning of the great wheel of Dharma is not for self or for others, and is not for preaching or for listening. Gensa's expression is, the flame is preaching Dharma for the Buddhas of the three times, and the Buddhas of the three times are standing on the ground to listen. This, although it says that the flame is preaching Dharma for the Buddhas of the three times, never says that the flame is turning the wheel of Dharma. Neither does it say that the Buddhas of the three times are turning the wheel of Dharma. The Buddhas of the three times are standing on the ground to listen, but how could Gensa's flame turn the Buddhas of the three times wheel of Dharma? Does the flame which is preaching Dharma for the Buddhas of the three times also turn the great wheel of Dharma, or does it not? Gensa never says, turning of the wheel of Dharma is this moment. Neither does he deny the existence of turning of the wheel of Dharma. But I wonder whether Gensa has stupidly understood turning the wheel of Dharma to mean preaching about the wheel of Dharma. If so, he is blind to Seppo's words. He has recognized that when the flame is preaching Dharma for the Buddhas of the three times, the Buddhas of the three times are standing on the ground and listening to the Dharma. But he does not know that where the flame is turning the wheel of Dharma, there the flame is standing on the ground and listening to the Dharma. He fails to say that where the flame is turning the wheel of Dharma, the flame simultaneously is turning the wheel of Dharma. The Buddhas of the three times listening to the Dharma is the Dharma state of the Buddhas. It is not influenced by others. Do not see the flame as Dharma. Do not see the flame as Buddha. And do not see the flame as flame. Truly, we should not disregard the words of master or disciple. How could it be sufficient only to have expressed that a red beard is a foreigner? It is also the fact that a foreigner's beard is red. Although Gensa's words are like this, present in them is something which we should esteem as the power of learning in practice. That is to say, we should learn in practice the essence and forms that have been authentically transmitted by the Buddhas and the patriarchs, and which are not connected with essence and forms in the limited Mahayana and Hinayana thinking of sutra teachers and commentary teachers. What Gensa describes is the Buddhas of the three times listening to the Dharma, which is beyond the essence and forms of Mahayana and Hinayana Buddhists. They know only that Buddhas have, when it is accommodated by opportunities and circumstances, the preaching of the Dharma. They do not know that the Buddhas are listening to the Dharma. They do not assert that the Buddhas are training, and they do not assert that the Buddhas are realizing the state of Buddha. Now, in Gensa's expression, he has already asserted that the Buddhas of the three times are standing on the ground and listening to the Dharma. And this contains the essence and the form of the Buddhas listening to the Dharma. Do not see being able to preach as necessarily superior, and do not say that those who are able to listen to this Dharma are inferior. If those who preach are venerable, those who listen are also venerable. Shakyamuni Buddha said, "If they preach this sutra, at once they will see me. But to preach it, even to a single person, that indeed will be hard." So, to be able to preach the Dharma is to meet Shakyamuni Buddha, for the me who at once they will meet is Shakyamuni Buddha. He also said, "After my extinction, to listen to and to accept this sutra, and to inquire into its meaning, that indeed will be hard." Remember, listening and acceptance also equally are hard. There is no superiority or inferiority, even though those who are standing on the ground to listen are the Buddhas, the supremely venerable. They should be standing on the ground to listen to the Dharma. Those who are standing on the ground to listen to the Dharma are the Buddhas of the three times, and so those Buddhas are in the realized state. We do not talk of listening to the Dharma as a causal process. They are already the Buddhas of the three times, and so we should remember that the Buddhas of the three times, standing on the ground to listen to the flame preach Dharma, are Buddhas. Although we cannot trace the whole truth of the teaching and the conventions when we endeavor to trace them. The state is arrow tips having collided. Flame invariably preaches the Dharma for the Buddhas of the 3 times, and in the state of red mind, moment by moment, flowers bloom on iron trees, and the world is fragrant. In brief, while flame remains standing on the ground to listen to the preaching of Dharma, ultimately, what is realized? The answer may be wisdom surpassing the master, or wisdom equaling the master. Further, by researching deep beyond the threshold of master and disciple, flame becomes the Buddhas of the 3 times. Engo says that Seppo's deserving to be called the White Baron does not prevent the Black Baroness from also being present, and that their reciprocal throwing themselves into the moment is gods appearing and demons vanishing. Now, although Seppo can manifest himself in the same situation as Gensa, there may be in Gensa a way in which he does not enter the same situation as Seppo. At the same time, is flame the Buddhas? Are Buddhas flame? The mind of reciprocation between black and white appears and vanishes in the gods and demons of Gensa, but the sounds and forms of Seppo never remain in the area of black and white. And while this is so, we should recognize that in Gensa there is fitness of verbal expression, and there is unfitness of verbal expression. Whereas in Seppo, there is taking up with verbal expression, and there is leaving be with verbal expression. Now Engo, in addition, has an expression which is not the same as Gensa, and not the same as Seppo, namely, that blazing flame covering the cosmos is Buddha preaching Dharma, and that the cosmos in blazing flame is Buddha preaching Dharma. This expression really is brightness to students of later ages. Even if we are blind to blazing flame, because we are covered by the cosmos, I have that condition, and the other has this condition. Places covered by the cosmos are already blazing flame. What is the use of hating this and relying on that? We should be glad that this skin bag, although its place of birth is distantly removed from the sacred quarter, and the present in which it is living is distantly removed from the sacred time, has still been able to hear the guiding teacher of the cosmos. That Buddha preaches Dharma we had heard, but with regard to the fact that Dharma preaches Buddha, how deeply enmeshed were we in ignorance. In summary, the Buddhas of the 3 times are preached in the 3 times by the Dharma, and the Dharma of the 3 times is preached in the 3 times by Buddha. There solely exists the cosmos, which, ahead of the wind, cuts away nests of arrowroot and wisteria. A single word has conspicuously tested and defeated Vimalakirti, and others besides Vimalakirti too. In sum, Dharma preaches Buddha, Dharma practices Buddha, and Dharma experiences Buddha. Buddha preaches Dharma, Buddha practices Buddha, and Buddha becomes Buddha. States like this are all the dignified behavior of acting Buddha. Over the cosmos and over the earth, over the past and over the present, those who have attained it do not trivialize it, and those who have clarified it do not debase it. Written at Kanondori Kosho Horinji Temple in the last 10 days of the 10th lunar month in the 2nd year of Ninji.